podium and a microphone.
You're live.
Do not do well with those. But anyway, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the invite to speak to you tonight. I started my law enforcement career back in 1989, where I started with the city of Dallas, down in Dallas, Texas. And I spent 3 years down there. And I basically went down there for experience so that I can get back to Sheboygan County. My dream of working in law enforcement within Sheboygan in some capacity, whether it was Plymouth, Falls, Sheboygan, whatever, actually came true. And actually, now that I'm sheriff, this is my dream job. I absolutely love it. I think the path that I have taken through the guidance of the Lord above, He laid out this path for me, and I truly believe that. My exposure in Dallas gave me the experience to do very well during the hiring process for the city of Sheboygan. I was #1 on the list. Got to into the community policing after several years of being out on the road, and that really built my rapport with the community, gave me the confidence and the and kind of like the priorities I think that law enforcement needs today, and that's the emphasis on community policing and problem solving, and also embracing a leadership model of which we have leadership in police organizations. So we're moving away from managing our people to actually leading our people, and it's paying off in dividends. And we are paving the way when it comes to law enforcement, county law enforcement agencies, when it comes to building leaders and taking on the philosophy or the leadership model of LPO in the state. All of our staff has now been trained in LPO, of which I think is probably one of the top number of personnel in relation to size of the department in the state. So we're doing very, very well. So I'm very proud of that. All that comes through my experience through all the years of law enforcement and where we really needed to change in law enforcement. And I think now we're starting to get a foothold that if something happens within the next 2 years or 6 years after that, depending on what happens to me, I think there's enough leaders within our organization that leadership model will continue. And I really truly believe it is in the best interest of today's law enforcement. We need to understand our younger generations that are getting into law enforcement and how to lead them. You don't manage them, you have to lead them. You have to understand the generational differences between the older guard and the new folks that are coming in. It's a totally different way of leading these people. We have to understand that. And it's tough in law enforcement if we continue to be managers and supervisors waiting for them to mess up. We will never capitalize on the skills and the abilities that this younger generation has to offer. Okay. So with that being said, I absolutely love being sheriff. I love the challenges. Every day seems to be a challenge. Day goes by like this. I can't believe it's over 2 years already that I've been in office. It's actually going very scary fast is what I call it. But I'm really enjoying it and looking forward to the challenges to come. So I guess the way I normally do this and the way we kind of had it set up, it was going to kind of be like an open forum. But I have a feeling that there's one topic in particular that is probably very high on the list of things to discuss. So I guess I'll throw it out to you. Do you have any questions up to this point?
Exactly what does LPO mean?
LPO is what did you say?
Liberal police officer.
We'll clarify this right now. LPO is leadership in police organizations. Okay. And what that is, in a nutshell, is understanding human behavior. Okay, and it uses a lot of theory, and then using leader strategies to correct the behavior. And I'm going to give you a real quick example of this. Let's take two people. All right, we'll take the two folks up front. One is going to be a low growth needs individual. All right, low growth needs individual does not mean that they do very minimum to get by on a daily basis, or they They have a very minimal amount of output on a daily basis. What a low-growth person means is that she likes consistency. She likes to know that she's going to go to work and her responsibility is going to be fairly routine on a daily basis, and she does it fantastic. Okay? She doesn't want the challenges. So to task her with a project that is going to cause her to get out of her comfort level, we're setting her up to fail. However, let's take the high growth needs person. High growth needs person doesn't like routine, everyday, mundane tasks. High growth needs person needs challenges. Okay? I'm a high growth needs person. I cannot get by with just doing the regular routine work every single day. I need to be challenged in order for my job satisfaction, performance, and motivation to stay high. Okay? So now if I don't challenge her with some projects or some tasks that are challenging to her, her job satisfaction, performance, and motivation goes down. Okay? So once we understand that, now instead of supervisors, managers, and law enforcement seeing we're going to say this is a shift of officers here. Okay? I don't see my shift of officers, deputies, and giving them their assignments and sending them out to the road. I see individuals. And each individual needs to be led differently because each one has different needs. And as a leader, I understand what that is, so I set them up for success, not failure. High growth needs people need to hear how their job, their work that they're doing is making an impact. So now I can give her all these challenges, and she's reaping, she is just motivated. I got a sergeant, Sergeant Christy DeBlay. She's originally from the Oostburg area. When I got into the sheriff's office, she was ready to leave the field. She's got a master's. She's working on her master's. I think she just finished it up in criminal justice. Okay? This gal is very, very high growth needs individual. She's a supervisor in patrol. She said she was ready to leave the field. The reason why she was ready to leave the field was she didn't have the challenges that she was craving for. Well, when I chose her to supervise the dispatch center, of which was the first supervisor in the comm center for the Sheboygan County Sheriff's Office, all of a sudden her job satisfaction, performance, and motivation just skyrocketed. Because that dispatch center that has never had a direct supervisor or leader had lots of challenges.
I bet you they loved her.
Oh, and they do. She holds them accountable, and they know that that's what they need.
Yeah.
But now add this combined dispatch project. She is just bubbling over with motivation and job satisfaction at this point. So that's what I'm getting at when it comes to embracing this leadership in police organizations and understanding individuals. Because if we can meet the needs of individuals, we can shrink the gap between their individual needs and accomplishing organizational goals, and we can shrink that gap to the point that you're no longer concerned of what your needs are. Now you can focus on the organizational goals. Okay? That's the easiest way for me to explain it. It's 3 weeks of training, very in-depth. It's unlike law enforcement training that we're accustomed to. Normally we go to a conference or in-service training and there's bits and pieces you get out of it. This is so academic that you have to read outside of class. And then you're doing some journaling and also case studies. It's like going back to college. In fact, there's one college that actually offers college credits for it, if I remember correctly. So it's pretty in-depth. So that's LPO. And I could talk about LPO for an hour. I just think it is the thing for law enforcement agencies to really be embracing. So, and I learned that the hard way, going all the way back to Dallas and in Sheboygan, seeing where we're kind of like, we need to do something different as leaders.
How many officers are under you?
We have 177 employees at the Sheboygan County Sheriff's Office. We have 34 road deputies along with our command staff. So sworn, we're up to 72, I believe it is.
Have you seen crime increase in the last few years?
Actually, we have a new software that our tracking has been very difficult. We have Spielman now. So our tracking has been a little bit on the difficult side when it comes to drawing data, and a lot of that stuff is getting tweaked out now. My gut is telling me it's staying fairly consistent. We have spikes in burglaries and things of that nature. I think the first month of the year, January, I think we had 3 burglaries for the county, which is pretty low, but that will start to go back up as we get into the warmer months. The city, I think you'll find before I left, crime was actually, some of it was dropping and some of it was increasing. It all kind of depended.
Where you were?
Well, actually on the nature of the crime. I think the more violent ones have dropped and more of your property crimes, I think, have gone up. But now if you look at the Gateway neighborhood and what they've done in there, that neighborhood and the crime has dropped dramatically because of the efforts that the chief is doing in there with their neighborhood policing.
Who is our chief? I don't even know.
Chief Chris Domagowski.
Never.
He was pivotal. He actually came with the neighborhood policing concept, which is community policing. And it was something that we tried to get going within the police department. He came along and instead of having a unit of community policing, of which I was doing, he made it a department-wide philosophy, and that's the way community policing should be. It's not a unit, it's not a special group, it's an entire agency, and that's what the Sheboygan County Sheriff's Office is also. We are a department that embraces department-wide the philosophy of community policing. So, and that's where you start forming your partnerships.
So you and him are at pretty good,
Oh, yeah.
not like the Milwaukee ones.
No.
How is the gang situation in Sheboygan County?
I have not been hearing much actually about the gangs. That seems to kind of come and go too. I know the street crimes unit is very aggressive, and haven't heard much, and I haven't seen much graffiti around. I've seen some and it kind of got wiped out and they tried to take care of it right away. They look for monikers that help lead to the arrest and hold these people accountable. A lot of it ends up being felonies, so they end up going to prison. So I haven't really heard much. We don't have a whole lot out in the county at all. I'm not aware of any gangs that we really have that like the city of Sheboygan has. If there are out there, they're pretty low key. We certainly have our number of wannabes that will do some of the graffiti, and they're not necessarily gang. But now the serious gangs, you've got a variety of involvement in gangs. You know, I know they shot out there years back, what was it, 54 gangs, I think the city claimed that they had. But each one of those vary in their involvement in criminal activity, if they are involved in criminal activity. Not all of them are involved in drug dealing or prostitution or anything like that. There's a handful of the nasty ones that are the ones that are reaping the havoc in the community, and they are at odds with each other. So, you know, and that seems to come and go, and I have not heard a whole lot lately. So,
That's good.
yeah, I think you've got the right chief. I really do. He's asking a lot out of his guys, and I really think that the approach that they're taking with these partnerships, and they have now, if you live in the city, you have 72 neighborhoods that have been designated as neighborhood with your own officer. And that officer should have made contact with the neighborhood at some point. If not, they will be, because that's a priority in the chief, along with forming of associations through Sheboygan Neighborhood Pride. So there's an awful lot of effort going on into neighborhoods and building that partnership with the citizens along with law enforcement. And we're doing it at the county level also in the form of townships. Our deputies are going to town hall meetings and finding out, such as this here, what are the concerns in your township. And then collectively together, we work together in identifying what's the root cause and then coming up with solutions for solving it. But we do that in partnership. So it doesn't all fall on your shoulders and it all doesn't fall on our shoulders. We work together, because that's how we're going to actually get things accomplished, by working together. You know, we can't be everywhere when it comes to some of the crimes that are occurring, so we are going to rely on the public to give us that information that we need. to take proactive measures to prevent some of these things from happening, and then think outside the box to how can we end the problem or at least reduce the frequency, things of that nature. There's various goals that you set in accomplishing and solving problems. So that's another whole hour and a half that I could talk to you about problem solving and partnerships and things of that nature. It gets pretty involved, and there's a lot of training that goes involved in it, but it's all about partnerships. So,
Are you familiar with Oath Keepers?
with what?
Oath keepers.
Yes.
Can you say that again?
I asked if he was familiar with Oath Keepers.
Okay.
I have heard of, I've heard of it, but I don't know enough to really talk about it or anything like that.
And kind of going along with that would be Sheriff Clark out of
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee County. I'm wondering where you,
Stand.
yeah, on.
Maybe you
Are you
can
more with Flynn or Clark?
repeat what she said, because it's so everybody can hear.
Okay, I think the question is where do I stand in this,
terms of defending
The Constitution.
Sheboygan County citizens in line with the Constitution, where you are the officer that can stand against the federal government should they decide to act against U.S. citizens.
yeah. I stand with Clark.
May I add one comment?
Thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, Oath Keepers is an organization that's comprised of former military and law enforcement
Correct.
that have teamed up. Anybody who has sworn an oath to this country to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, they aren't most likely to be oath keepers, but that's what their organization is comprised of. So with that being said, that's what that organization is all about.
And they have 10 statements that involve not acting against U.S. citizens.
Law-abiding citizens.
Law-abiding.
What meaning they're not going to inter people, they're not going to like take their weapons. There's 10 points.
Search and seizure.
Right. So that's why I asked, where you stood, because I know Sheriff Clark. I don't know if he knows Oath Keepers itself, but I know the stand that he took, and I was just wondering if you're.
Yeah, I agree with Clark. I think how he presented all this had a lot to be desired. And when I talked to you that night at our dinner there, at our caucus, and you wanted to know if I was in support of Clark, and I said, I don't know what he all said. I'm really glad I did that, because I did know what he all said. Now, I agree with what he was trying to say, but how he said it and how he presented it, I never would have said it that way.
Do you know?
How would you have said
it?
Well, is it possible though that he intended to say that because bam, it hit the news?
Well-
Now there's now there's discussion.
Well, the thing is Sheriff, this is video recorded. Can you put that on pause, please? Anything I want out on YouTube.